Some of the components are made here, but the raw materials, people do not understand the supply chain and how interconnected with the world it is. So if there's any kind of blockade, any kind of scuffle, any kind of geopolitical strife with a couple particular countries over there, that stuff is astronomically going to go up in price or totally be unavailable. Hey guys, Rex here. So those that have been here for a while know that I do a lot of long-range rifle precision shooting for a while and training, and I get to see a lot of different optics and things like that on the market. So that's my shtick. So that's kind of the example I'm going to use for this video, but this is going to go beyond what I'm going to tell you about the rifle scope deal we got going on, true story, like $169.99 off on these deals now, because of certain reasons. But I'm going to talk about back in the day. I don't know if you guys remember. This is a while ago. Do you remember before the 1986 ban that Reagan did on machine guns? You guys remember that? You could buy like a Colt M16 with all the paperwork for a pretty low amount of money, under $1,000. I know guys. Another guy with a very similar name to me did that in a spot where I used to live. And he bought dozens and dozens of them and got the paperwork done. And now he's kind of like doing pretty good for himself. He saw that one coming around the corner, so he moved on it. Also, before the 94 assault rifles ban, 10-22 magazines, just as an example, okay? Like the Ram line 30-round 10-22 mags. Or they actually made a 50-round double stack, the banana clip. You guys remember that, right? But I remember them being at the hardware store and at Kmart and wherever, Woolworths, right? And when that law kicked in, they dried up. And then when you found them, they were up to $79 a piece if you wanted a new one. And then they were up to $129. And I seen them go as high as $149 a piece, as much as a rifle, for a plastic $12 or $19, not even, ram lines worked fine, but it wasn't made out of gold. But the right storm of circumstances came together to make them very, very hard to find. And just because of politics, right? If you guys remember before 2013, if I could have told you guys before 2013, when the bad stuff happened in this particular market, right? That, hey, rimfire ammo right now, 22 ammo, is $8.98 for 550 rounds. And for a long time during that sweet spot, I was always telling my friends and people that I was with, like, hey, man, like, grab some when you go to the grocery store. Grab some when you go down to whatever, Just, it's cheap to buy a little bit at a time here and there. And just kind of keep your supply up. For every one you shoot off, replace it with two. That was always my policy, right? And so after the stuff was impossible to find for years, and the price is never going back down below $10 a box again like it was. But if I could have told you guys that, you would have moved on it, right? I will tell you that like in the 90s as well, rifles, this kind of rifle right here, I'm not going to say it because of mathematicals on this stupid YouTube. By the way, if you want to hear about the real dope, come over to Patreon. Rex, it's not as free. We'll talk about that sometime. Come to Patreon, we'll explain it. It's fun. We're having a lot of fun there. I'm having fun. But rifles like this right here, in the 90s, if you could find one, it was either a Colt or a Bushmaster. And they were over $1,000 for a post-ban configuration, which was the Clinton version, which was dumb, right? And they were like $1,200, $1,100 for and they didn't have a lot of configurations, right? They had like the A2 configuration or the short one, the CAR, and maybe an Elite, Colt A3 Elite, with the stainless steel bull barrel and the round handguards on there. Nowadays, some stuff is really affordable. Like, there are ebbs and flows in any market. When you talk about supply chain bottlenecks, it's a real thing, okay? Rex is up to something. Yeah, I'm telling you stuff like I always try to tell you for a long time, right? There's supply chain bottlenecks. If you haven't noticed for the last 2 or 3 years, that's a thing. And there are basic material bottlenecks coming up too as well, in terms of the basic material stuff is made out of. Let me show you a little bit what's going on here. Just a few, I don't know if you see over there on this shelf right there, there's a bunch of paint on that shelf, okay? Rattle cans. I use it to finish my firearms. And there was a time for a few months when that stuff was up to $18 or $23 a can. For certain colors, for like the matte series, which is, why? How could it possibly be that expensive? Because various bottlenecks for raw materials, for certain pigments or colorations or whatever, and certain mixes was just not available. And with the supply and demand being, they had to make other paint, they had to prioritize, right? Like my favorite brewskis, right? This is not my favorite brewski, it's pretty good. This is still available, but some of the stuff is just gone, and it's not gonna come back for a long time. And we're like a frog boiling in the pot, so we don't see it. I log this stuff because it's my job, plus I do the video commentaries. I mean, it's like my job to keep track of this particular market, right? I'm telling you, there's some things that you probably would be smart to grab while you can. And I'll give you a list of what those things might be, okay? So, like, we'll just start with tools, okay? Because I'm not here I want you to have the full spectrum of what I'm trying to say, okay? So, tools, right? Paints and resins are made of a lot of stuff, glues, cordage, tape, like good duct tape, right? Or electrical tape, whatever it is that you do in your industry. If you have a job, if you're a person that works for a living, that stuff ain't getting cheaper. A lot of it's getting really hard to find, and all of it seems to be starting to go down in quality unless you pay the huge amount of money and pay attention to the exact details of what you're buying. You can buy the old school quality stuff still. It's going to cost you. They're rebranding and marketing things that are going way up, or the quality is going way down. They're maintaining the price, right? And I'm not here to panic you. I'm not here to panic you guys, okay? I don't want to be one of these hair on fire. Let's imagine next week your grandma is being eaten by wolves. Like, that's not what I do on this channel, okay? It's not like my thing. But I will tell you, be smart. And if you have logistics to consider in your preparedness, in your business, in whatever you do for fun, I don't know what you guys are doing, think ahead, right? You can save so much money by doing that. I've been lucky. Some might say I'm experienced in the particular deal, but like I've been blessed with being able to see some of these things come ahead of time and get squared away, so it's not a problem, right? Houses, cars, things like that. I've always just been like right on the edge through some kind of miracle deal to where it came out okay. But like when you're talking about a lot of this stuff, tools ain't getting cheaper. All that stuff I listed before, resins, solvents, petroleum products. Like if you need lubrication for your weapons, it lasts a long time. You get a tub of axle grease, high temperature axle grease, it's gonna last for a while. It doesn't take that much. Stuff that you're gonna use, filters, right? I could name so many things. Lithium batteries, I did wanna talk about that, okay? So there was a war in Afghanistan. I don't know if you guys ever heard about that deal. But that's where the lithium is. A lot of it, like a big pile of it. We were not really taking advantage of the lithium, the Chinese were, and they were able to dig it and sell it. That's China's policy, is to dig stuff up and sell it, to build stuff and sell it. America's policy, and I'm a patriotic American, is whatever that's worth to you, is not to dig stuff up and sell it. We just found a bunch of lithium deposits. I'm pointing at these lithium batteries up here. We found a bunch of lithium deposits in Nevada. I've just seen this on the news, and I've always kind of been aware of that because I'm into geology and stuff. But like the thing is, oh, batteries are going to go down now, people. America is not a dig it up and sell it kind of place. America is a politician jumps into the middle, creates a bottleneck, and the stuff costs 50 times more kind of place. If the Chinese, okay, whether you love or hate them, can build these batteries for like $60 or $70 a piece, seems expensive. When you're talking about the rare earth mineral extraction from the United States done here with American prices for labor, and the politics and the permitting needed to do that, somebody's going to make bank, and it ain't going to be us. That stuff is going to be way more expensive. So if you need lithium batteries, one is none, two is one, rechargeable ones, right? Like I was going to show you this deal here. Get this kind of stuff while you can. Just a surefire dual fuel Scout, whatever, I don't know, right? Dual fuel, so it has a rechargeable lithium battery. You just plug it in. Freaking really cool. Or you can use the CR123s, right? I'm telling you, that's going to go up. CR2032s, or it's going to be very hard to find. Or if you can find it, it's going to be some crazy off-brand that's way inferior. So that might be a thing to look at if you use tools. I use these kind of tools more often than those kind of tools anymore, probably, right? But think about that, okay? I got solar generators. Like I got a Gold Zero over here, and that's it's not gonna get cheaper, man. So if you ever need stuff like that, that's a good investment, okay? Also, we have rifles themselves, right? I was just talking about the pricing of rifles in the 90s being $1,100, $1,000 for a Colt or a Bushmaster. You can buy an Andro Industries or a Ruger or an MP15 from Smith & Wesson, or name your company of decent AR-15 rifles that is every bit as good as those fancy ones in practical reality. Okay, now there's some things that they do that other places don't. Details, we can talk about that over on Patreon or something, okay? But like I'm telling you, this stuff right now is really cheap. This is like pre-1986 ban cheap right now, okay? Adjusted for inflation, okay? And the inflation is only going to get worse. The dollar's going to continue to go down. And totally, even if you don't even attach that to the bottleneck problem, inflation's still going to destroy your purchasing power while stuff goes up, not even related to inflation, just from the stupidity of the blockades and all the stuff going on, the politics from what happened in the last 2 or 3 years, right? So you have like a double whammy, and it's more than that because it's actually going to create a weird, terrible cluster mess, I'm going to say, okay? It's going to, a cluster mess. You guys know what I mean, right? Okay? So be advised, like right now is a good time to, if one is none, two is one, right? Make sure you're situated. If you ever wanted a rifle like this, it's a tool that's so cheap right now, you'd be crazy not to buy them. Likewise, Magpul magazines. What are they, 12 bucks? And there's a million of them? Do you guys not even remember a few years ago when it was impossible to find those things? And there's a lot of good magazines out there now that are really affordable. Well, people can, try to imagine what kind of stuff they're going to do. It doesn't matter. Like if you don't have it, you don't have it, right? So stuff like that is so cheap now. It's almost silly not to grab a bunch, right? It's a very affordable lottery ticket, right? So stuff like that I think is a good idea. Likewise, when you're talking about more complex items that require a lot of labor and a lot of expertise in terms of instrumentation in the industry to put together and assemble, like rifle optics or things with computers in them, right? Like I could say vehicles, I'm not really into that as much, but like my sector of my expertise, I suppose, is in these things, rifle scopes. You can go to the hardware store right now and buy a cheap over-the-counter deer hunting rifle scope. This is a tactical scope, whole different category. And it's a really good optic compared to like, if you would have bought a rifle scope in the 90s from a really fancy, like super well advertised company that was like the rifle scope for serious guys. The scope you can buy at the hardware store, at the junk store, now for under $50 is probably as good or better in a lot of ways than those old ones were, just because of the advancement of material science, technology, the improvement of the CNC abilities of these of the machining of the internal parts, the screws, the control group, the rector assemblies. That stuff is a lot better and a lot cheaper right now, but you have to see where the curves intersect, right? So your dollar's crashing eventually. I don't know when it's going to crash, guys. It's next week, 10 years from now, I don't know. But it's going down. That's probably the trend, right? And the bottlenecks are getting worse. Raw materials, there's a lot of different metals and components, and not to mention the different kinds of glass that they use for the ED glass and a lot of this stuff, the apochromatically corrected glass, or even the normal two-layer stuff. And the screws, like carbide type steels, like even nails. I mean, there's a lot of materials that are going to have a shortage, to where I think it's not going to get cheaper, and it has a huge potential to get really expensive quick. And when you're talking about the labor, particularly, here's the deal. When you're talking about more complex items like this, or phones, or cars, or anything else that's made over in other places, they build it for way cheaper, and they do a better job than we can do for the money. It's a fact. I'm a patriot. I like America, but it's just, that's the way the market is right now, okay? I did a video before, if this chaps your hide, then take off all your clothes that aren't made in a friendly country and throw them into the yard. Take all the sheetrock out of your house and all the electronic components on the walls. Go through your car, take out all the parts of your car, all the nuts, the bolts, the computer chips, the wiring, everything. Throw it into the yard if it's not made where you like it. It's just a reality, okay? So I'm just telling you what reality is. Embracing truth and reality, right? But like the components in here are going to be hard to find, and the labor part is really tricky, because the industry in the United States for this kind of stuff, when you're talking about instrumentation, calculators, computers, cars, microscopes, like all that stuff, these guys got it figured out. Philippines, Japan, and now China can do it for so cheap, and it's such a good quality item, whatever they're building, to where it's like, for example, I'll just use this as an example, okay? This is a Arkin SH4, right? Rifle scope. When I started shooting, I looked for a rifle scope with first focal plane, tactile audible turrets with a zero stop. That works, right? And that was tough, and that would track with graduation tracking precision, for those of you that know what I'm talking about. A scope that would work. Parallax adjustment, illuminated reticle, really good quality glass. I was looking for a scope of this configuration, variable power, first focal plane, right? With all the stuff, mil configuration, 34 millimeter tube, all that stuff, right? The only option when I got into this was the Schmidt & Bender PM2 from Germany. And Western countries, people don't go to work for cheap. They don't go to work for cheap. So this scope costs you $3,000. I paid $29.71 or something, or $29.50 for my Schmidt & Bender. Now they're way more, right? And if you look at Steiner, Schmidt & Bender, they're expensive, right? You can get stuff from Asia that's practically, guys, right up there. If I was to map out all the rifle scopes from all the classes, you see a gap closing between your tier 1 stuff from the old days, and I say old days 5 years ago, 3 years ago even, or even 10 years ago especially. You have your really, your Night Force, your Leupold, your Steiner, your Collis, your Schmidt & Bender is up here. Tracking graduation precision, it was never exactly at 100%, but some of it was 99.5% and then 100. And you look at ruggedness and you look at clarity. If you actually erase the emotion attached to the brand name and look at it in terms of statistical performance and features and plot it out on a matrices of value, you will find that some of these scopes are like right here, right, really close when you actually plot it out without the emotions and all that stuff. So that's just a reality, okay? So it's hard to beat. Like this deal here, I think is under $500. Just for those of you that aren't familiar with that deal, the Schmidt and Bender was $3,000, right? So for $399 plus the 100, I just got a new discount code deal, $169.99 off now if you get the package with all the mount. These mounts, if you buy them somewhere, like this should be like $200 or maybe $150. It's like, but if you get it with the mount and all the other stuff that comes in the package, I'll show you at the end of the video. Like you can get it for way cheaper than stuff used to be, right? And so that's something to be, I'm telling you, there are a lot of things in the market like this. Yeah, I mean, if you just look at raw metals or materials, welding rods, like nails and screws, guys, I'm telling you, those are hard to build. My bro asked me, a couple months ago, because I'm asking, hey, what's the stuff that I should grab while it's super cheap that no one thinks about that is vital long-term if stuff goes sour with some of these countries? Like if we got into, here's the reason why I'm bringing up all this stuff. If we got into any kind of a blockade situation or any confrontation with the countries that supply us with the raw materials, even if you want to go all American instead of something like this, where are you going to get glass? Your American scope doesn't use American glass. The components that it's built out of are built everywhere else. Some of the components are made here, but the raw materials, people do not understand the supply chain and how interconnected with the world it is. So if there's any kind of blockade, any kind of scuffle, any kind of geopolitical strife with a couple particular countries over there, that stuff is astronomically going to go up in price or totally be unavailable. If they're still trading with us as an adversary geopolitically, in trade we're not really adversaries, but we still trade. It's not symmetrical trade. They're a lot more aggressive than we are. But I'm telling you, it's going to be a problem. On your end, nails, screws, silicone caulk, paint, name it, clothing. The Cordura that your tactical gear is made out of, your American-made stuff is the stuff that it's made out of. If you backtrack it down to its raw components and the dyes and all the stuff, it's going to be a very interesting rude awakening. So I like to get ahead of that curve. And that's why I'm talking with you guys right now, okay? So whatever it is, it doesn't have to be the rifle scope or the rifle or the magazines or the lights or the batteries. Or you can just think this is entertaining and then just laugh at it and then don't do any of the stuff I'm saying. But if you're trying to be prepared, it's smart to buy when it's cheap, right? And then it's not smart to buy after the panic. So if when you consider the quality right now is still being maintained pretty well, because I keep close track of the stuff that's my job, right? I keep track of this kind of stuff. Quality's there right now. I have no idea what's going to happen 2 or 3 years from now. And that goes for any other brand of anything because stuff is changing so rapidly. When it comes to tools, power tools, like I was showing you here earlier, I'm getting all my power tool situation totally squared away right now. Shovels, simple stuff. You want to build a shovel after digging the metal out of a mountain, refining it, getting the steel with the proper amount of manganese in there, getting the impurities out and then hammering it. You know how much work that is? Or you can buy it at the hardware store now for really cheap. That's what I'm talking about. There's certain things that grab it, stuff you're going to use while it's affordable, right? So that's what this is all about. But the tools I've been buying, I've been trying to grab them while the quality is still there because some of that's old stock supply too. And the components, even though it might be manufactured, the components, you don't know how old they are, but they're probably before the quality of the components and the materials is going down too. Because you have a change in the negative direction for quality of components and materials worldwide across the board in all industries. Okay, not to mention labor. So if you can intersect that curve and intercept what you need to grab right now before it gets before you see the reduction in quality, you are going to be a wise person. So grab a few of whatever you're looking for. When I buy lithium batteries, I make sure I have enough for all my tools with pace planning. Like I don't buy one. I know it's expensive, and I'm not like a rich guy, but I see it as I don't spend money on frivolous things, right? I don't buy rap CDs or whatever. Like I make sure, okay, I'm thinking ahead. This stuff is going to go up, guaranteed, right? So grab it now. All right, that was a fun talk. I'll leave the, well, I should probably show this to you guys. All right, the rest of you guys check out, if you're curious about the rifle scope, I'll show that to these guys now, okay? So the Arkin SH4 is the Gen 2, right? This is their 6 to 24 power. They have the other ones still in stock. First focal plane, nice optic. You guys seen the videos, right? Very, very decent control groups, very robust, built like a tank, very decent glass. Price has been in the $300 and $400 range, which is ridiculously cheap. But they just told me, I was talking to Mike from Arkin. He was on SEAL Team 1. He was a sniper on SEAL Team 1. Really cool guy. He knows his stuff. Puts pride behind what he does too. But I was talking to him, and he says, hey man, you're like, because I have mutual, beneficial arrangements with outfits that I like Optics Planet. They take care of me in terms of like, if I want to get something in review, they'll send it to me. I don't make money with those guys, but they send me stuff to review, right? Or some outfits I do different deals with. But like Arkin, after I wrestled with these scopes for about a year, I was like, man, these are really good for the money. So it supports the channel, so I appreciate that. But like all that being aside, he said, hey man, we're going to give the guys off $169.99 if they buy the scope with the combo. And I didn't know what that was, so I'll show you. Okay. And I don't make a better deal for me. I'm telling you guys about the combo. It's actually less, but it's a good deal, so I'll show you. But they got these rubbery, which I kind of like that for various reasons. The scope caps, they come with good scope caps that I think are better than the Butler Creeks. So what do those cost? I don't know, a little bit, right? The mount, really good one-piece mounts available. The rigid precision Arkin style mount. They got their markings on here for what the torque should be, which is incredibly smart. You got a good, robust design. I've never had any problems. These are good mounts. Like, they should be way more than they are. Okay, so you get a free mount or rings of your choice. They have different heights on the rings. Because you try to buy a 34 millimeter one-piece mount. Tell me what they cost, okay? You get their sticker. See, they got a sticker for you. You can put that on your pickup truck. All the other guys dived off now. I'm just showing you guys who are curious about this. We got the little bag. It's like a bag for your scope tools and stuff, which is a good idea, right? And we have the quick throw lever. You put this on your magnification ring. And then if you're wearing, people think this is for like ninja fast mode. It could be, I suppose, right? I can turn it fast this way too. But one of the nice things about that, you're wearing like mittens or gloves, or, if you're wearing gloves, or in the dark, you can just grab it and it's very easy to get to, okay? So there's a lot of other things this does. It's pretty cool. We got the, what do you call this thing? Bubble level, okay? Which is actually, if you're going to be doing what we do at Rex Defense, where we're shooting clay pigeons past 1,000 because we think it's hilarious. Well, I'm telling you jokes at the same time, then a bubble level actually helps because you don't want the arc-shaped trajectory going off to one side or the other. It's not going to help you with your windage situation, okay? And a patch, and they got their package. It's on the website. You can look at it. I just wanted to show you. All good quality stuff, man. The optic itself is real. Oh, sunshade. It's threaded for a sunshade. Good plan. I like that. Those of you that know what I'm laughing about are laughing, but good stuff, man. And here's the reason I work with these cats, just so you guys know, okay? I can't find any scope under $500 or frankly under $800. There's some scopes around for $700 or $800 that in some ways match these in terms of quality and features. but you're going to pay $800. I won't do a direct comparison right now, but I got models that are like in all price ranges, but for $399 or $440 or whatever these are, plus $169 off for the package. So you basically get all that stuff I just showed you for $0 if you use the code I got for 8K. There's nothing else that does that. It used to be my favorite was the SWFA, the Super Sniper. Those are I still got a bunch of them, and I don't hate them all of a sudden, but they're a good scope. But this thing is, I mean, like, it's the one nowadays that's basically hit that plateau where they accomplished all the different criteria in terms of features for a long-range, dedicated long-range precision rifle scope setup. Like when you're talking about a full-size, decent rifle scope of a high magnification optic like that, where you're going to dial it in index or use a reticle. The tracking, graduation precision is on the ones I've tested was in between 99.5% and 100%, which I can tell you, I got the true stick right in front of me here. That's like a tier 1 scope. They're robust. The glass is actually very good in them. It's a whole different ballgame. So sound off on the bottom. If you guys have one of these already, just to let everyone who doesn't have one know, like, hey, it works good, because everyone who gets them, all my buddies like that do this a lot, like I do up here, are super, super stoked about it. So wanted to share that with you too in the video while I'm here. So, all right, you guys be safe out there. I'm going to go do some coyote hunting, I think is my plan. And I need to re-zero my thermal for a new setup, but should only, yeah. But it's a full moon, so catch you later.